When it comes to visual communication, there may be a few obvious approaches we think of when looking to establish visual hierarchy in our design. Some obvious ones will be contrast in layers, contrast in scale, and contrast in color. To beginners, it may seem obvious that the bigger something is, or the louder something is, will immediately draw your eye. And of course, that would be correct. But there are other more sophisticated ways we can achieve visual hierarchy in our design. If you are new to graphic design and layout, there will be lots to learn about some of the delicacies you can incorporate into your design that can help not only present clear information, but a clear hierarchy. In graphic design, there are principles of design that can be considered, which we can keep in mind in order to develop and create successful design. These principles all have a relationship between each other and appear in every well-designed piece of work you see. Understanding and harnessing design principles will enable you to create good visual communication and design in a variety of ways to make specific, appropriate, and meaningful impressions. This is what typically separates good design from bad design. In a previous video, I discussed one of the key design principles, visual hierarchy. In that video, we looked at the key ways hierarchy can be achieved in poster design. In poster design, hierarchy can be achieved in a variety of ways using contrast in layers, contrast in scale, contrast in color, contrast in space, and contrast in direction. Now, it's important to mention that these techniques don't have to be used exclusively, as some can be used together to develop a clear hierarchy in your design. In this video, we are going to look at one of the key ways to achieve visual hierarchy in your design. I'm going to take you through a quick presentation where we can look at some examples of how hierarchy can be achieved using contrast in space, in poster design, and the lessons we can learn to incorporate into our own design. So, let's get into it. So let's take a look at how contrast in space can help develop visual hierarchy. Now, a quick recap. Hierarchy is created by contrast between visual elements in a composition. Contrast helps distinguish elements from each other, which helps with legibility. Typically, visual elements with the highest contrast are noticed first, and so on. And one of the key ways to achieve contrast in a poster design is with contrast in space. Now, if a composition is cluttered, contains too many visual elements, and there is a lack of contrast between them, it can be hard for the eye to see where to go first. Space is not the most common principle incorporated into poster design, but if used well, space can really help present a clear hierarchy. In design, there are two types of space: positive space and negative space. Positive space can be perceived as two-dimensional or three-dimensional. Positive space refers to the shapes of objects. It usually refers to anything that is considered the main focus of the page, such as shape, image, type, texture, and so on. Negative space is white space or empty space, which is the part of the design that isn't there, the space between the visual elements. This can also be the background color of a design. Now, negative space can be just as integral to a design as positive space, which can help frame and contain a composition. In design, what creates positive and negative space is the arrangement and visual appearance of shapes within a composition and the space between elements. The more space that is placed around visual elements will reduce the level of noise and competition between them. Negative space avoids visual clutter and looks clean, which can help balance a composition, add emphasis to certain visual elements, and help to focus the viewer on something specific. In more simple and refined compositions, the eye does not have to work so hard, which allows the eye to observe what is most important easily. More space typically equates to more clarity and impact, as there is less to be taken in. In some posters, contrast of space is used to create simplicity and clarity, which leads to a much greater impact and emphasis, which can be used well to present a clear hierarchy. Here are some examples that utilize space in a variety of ways to draw the eye to prominent visual elements. Here are some designs that use negative space to add emphasis. For beginners to design, one may be compelled to fill up the page for the sake of creativity or decoration. While this can be a valid approach, utilizing space for strategy to create high impact and iconic design is also a worthy design approach. Reducing clutter Balancing your visual elements well and giving plenty of space will allow your visual elements to breathe and result in far more clear outcomes. This approach can be taken when you want to achieve a maximum clarity, impact, and practicality in your design. In this approach, less is more. Restraint and discipline will be required to use space to go for a more minimal approach. Adding space around your visual elements is the most straightforward way to utilize space in your design, but you will need confidence. In these examples, we see where space has been used as a premium to great effect to achieve iconic and impactful design. The difficulty level for this technique is easy. Now, some designs use negative space to enhance the simplicity and synergy between visual elements in a composition. Negative space used in this way can be playful, practical, and enticing. The eye likes negative space used in this way because it gels and blends visual elements together and adds a degree of flow and mystery to a composition. This approach strives for maximum simplicity to allow the eye to easily behold and comprehend. Negative space used like this also encourages us to look, as there is less to see and appreciate the intricacy between the elements. Skill will be required to work with visual elements to carefully gel them together. If managed well, with adequate contrast between the elements, this can create more visually intriguing and appealing results. In these examples, we see where negative space has been used in a playful way to create more unusual and more unpredictable results with high impact. The difficulty level for this technique is challenging. Now, some designs use negative space in a really clever and creative way. This approach takes the previous to a new level to further help enhance a message, idea, or story. Now, unlike the previous approach that gels shape and form in a visually pleasing way, here there is a more considered and strategic relationship between the visual elements. Negative space used in this way can be playful, curious, charming, and witty, and have a greater impact. It's what the eye does not see that makes us use our imagination to fill in the gaps. This makes the experience of observing designs like this far more engaging. In the previous examples, space was doing just one job, which was to simplify and add emphasis to prominent visual elements. Here, space is doing two jobs. The negative space not only gives emphasis to establish a clear visual hierarchy, but works as part of the holistic visual message. Using negative space in this way, it's possible to unite more than one idea together, but still achieve maximum simplicity. That's why negative space used in this way is so clever and intriguing. However, this is where it can get a little more difficult. Generally, this approach is taken if there is an opportunity to unite visual elements in a way that will give them more meaning, purpose, and narrative. To achieve this outcome will require planning and design. Skill and a creative eye will be required to see an opportunity to place visual elements together in such a way to elevate and enhance a message. If managed well, this can create far more visually intriguing and appealing results. In these examples, we see where negative space has been used in a creative and strategic way to create more unusual, remarkable results with high impact. The difficulty level for this technique is hard. So, in conclusion, as a beginner, it can be easy to overlook space in our design. Though remember, space will allow elements to breathe and be far more clear and can also be considered more premium. Restraint and discipline will be required to have the confidence to use space generously in your design. So what can we learn? Well, without taking care to establish a clear visual hierarchy, a design will be confusing and difficult to comprehend. It's easy to take space for granted, but it can be crucial to add clarity and breathing space for visual elements to help establish a clear sense of visual hierarchy. Overall, space might seem like the most simple aspect of design, but can be used to great effect to add emphasis, blend visual elements together, and create more meaningful relationships between visual elements to enhance a message or idea. If harnessed in a strategic way and applied cleverly, contrast in space can produce more clear, playful, and witty design with impact. So in application, when you're designing posters or anything for that matter, be sure to consider contrast in space to establish a clear hierarchy. When you finish your design, make sure to assess the space between your elements and ensure you have adequate space around your elements to allow them to feel free and clear. Also, when you look and observe other designs, ask yourself, how has hierarchy been considered? Is there a clear sense of hierarchy? How have they used space in their design to achieve it? And how well does it work as part of the design? Well, I hope you enjoyed this design theory lesson. If you did, hit the like button and don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell button to be notified of more design lesson videos like this in the future. Now, this lesson is part of a bigger series on poster design and part of my poster design ebook. If you want to take a closer look at the examples I demonstrated in this video and learn more about poster design with tutorials on how to make a poster design and undertake poster design challenges, you can invest in the poster design ebook. Link is in the description. Now, this video was created for all my members of the GDS Design School community. If you would like to join the GDS Design School community, where we chat about design, give each other feedback, and where I set design challenges, you are all welcome to join for free. Again, link is in the description, and I look forward to seeing you there. So until my next design lesson, unleash your creativity, and I'll see you next time.